Welcome to the Power of Her podcast. I'm Dawn Sinkula, and I'm so glad that you're here. So grab your coffee or your wine, get cozy, and let's dive in. Welcome to the Power of Her podcast. We are already getting started here with Gucci and having conversations all already. So I want to get started actually recording the podcast so that we can talk on record and have all of our listeners actually get to the point where they can hear all this goodness. But Gucci is a serial entrepreneur, finance educator, the voice of Millennial podcast, and lots of other things. But what we're going to talk about today, it really is kind of this mission to demystify money and women, and kind of how to talk and think about women in financial savvy ways, but also in male dominated ways. And before I started recording, we were starting to talk about male dominated and all sorts of things. But first, welcome to the show. Let me
Thank you
just
for having me.
stop and introduce you. Give us kind of your high level overview first before we dig into all of this juiciness, because I want people to kind of understand your background and where you came from and why you're such an expert in this field.
So my background really is business. When it comes to where I started, so I have three technical degrees. I have a degree in engineering, a science degree, and then a master's in finance. So I started off really in the traditional corporate world. My dream job was to work for DuPont.
Mm,
And at the time, this is 25 years ago, there were the two largest chemical companies in the world were Dow and DuPont. So,
yeah.
I honestly didn't know any better than to find a corporate job. I'm just gonna say it that way.
Yeah.
I think it's a personality thing. Obviously, corporations are a great thing, but so anyway, I found my job. And it's so much more difficult. I really feel for our millennial and younger
Yeah.
women. I found the phone number and I just hounded them, and they finally said, okay, we'll give you an internship if you leave us alone.
Right.
And that was actually, we can talk about that too.
Yes.
I was 25 years old. I had like multiple 50-year-olds reporting to me,
Hmm.
with zero experience. The only thing, well, I think a couple internships with them before I was hired, after graduation. But, that was an experience because, uh, yeah, to have this young person who
Uh,
has no experience.
uh,
But what I did have going for me was, I was very curious and I love to learn. And I think that's what got me to that point because, I think they had like a 3 to 6 training program first, three
sure.
to 6 month training program.
Sure.
And I think once they realized, oh, wait a minute, she really likes to work. Why don't we give her a real job? And that's what happened. I loved every second of being there. My
Yeah.
bosses were my bosses, one of my bosses actually pulled me aside and he goes, Gooch, he goes, you're getting a reputation. He's like, you need to socialize more. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, all right, I'll
Sure.
do that. But I had it was challenging in a sense that when you're that young,
Yeah.
you don't understand the perspectives of the older people that have decades of experience
Experience.
that are reporting to me.
Hmm.
I seriously didn't get it.
Right. And now
Um,
we're on the other side of it, right?
we're on the other
We
side
get
of
it
it.
now.
We're on the other side of it. And back then we didn't have the internet. We didn't have
Right.
all of these tools. So you just kind of went with the flow and
Did what
did,
you did.
there was no Mel Robbins,
Yeah, totally. I know. I know. You just kind of took this and did what you thought you knew how
Yeah,
to do and
yeah,
did the
yeah.
best and held on as hard as you could and hoped that
Right.
you wouldn't get fired.
Right, right. And
Right?
we had Oprah. Oprah was good. I
Yep.
learned a lot from
Yep.
Oprah,
Yep.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so that was kind of my first entrance, into the male dominated world. I
Yeah.
mean, engineering itself is
Totally. Right.
kind of like that.
Hmm.
And the way that I chose that career path was I just wanted to make money. I wanted to be independent,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, okay, engineers make a lot of money." So,
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah. And then, I got married and after I had children, I still worked for them, but that's when my entrepreneurial journey began.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you read this in my bio, but so the money management thing kind of fell into my lap. But let me back up. So my father was an accountant and
Mm,
he loved macro econ. So, I grew up in a household where that's what we talked about
talked
for
about. Yeah.
fun. We talked about,
Woo.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I grew up going to his brokerage with him.
Hmm.
And, I remember when there was an actual ticker tape, that's how you
Yeah.
checked stock prices.
Totally. Yep. Yep.
So, because of that, I was not intimidated by at least investing in equities at all. It was second
Sure.
nature.
Sure.
Unfortunately, he was more of a gambler than a buy and hold kind of guy. I wish he
Yeah.
was a buy and hold kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
Amazon, all these companies.
Right.
Yeah, my mom still talks about it.
Right.
She's like, if he had only held on to that Amazon, but
Wow.
so
Right.
I think that's important because
Yeah.
a lot of women are intimidated just due to lack of exposure, lack of
Sure. Totally.
knowledge,
Yep.
and it's male dominated.
Yep.
So I didn't have that. I mean, I had the confidence going into it.
Sure.
And so fast forward, I'm working for DuPont. My husband's working, and we consulted. I'm not going to name the name of the bank, but we consulted with like a large investment bank, to you know, do like our brokerage stuff.
Hmm.
Because back then, um, when I was in college, I had a TD. I think it was, it's changed hands so many times. It's Schwab now, but it
Yeah.
went from like TD to TD Ameritrade
Yep.
to
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
then Schwab.
Yep.
So we had this dude at our house. He works at a company that everyone would recognize the name. And I was pregnant with our first son. And I naturally ask a lot of questions. And I said, well, I asked him a question and his reply, and I don't remember the question, but I will never forget his reply. It's actually, I think, on my website too, in our about section. But he said, let's let the guys at Harvard worry about that.
Hmm.
Okay, wrong
Oh,
thing to say to anybody.
wrong thing to say to anybody, but let alone you.
Well, let alone someone, a good salesperson. And
Right?
that's what he was. And,
Yeah.
I
Sure.
actually have an episode on like certified financial planners versus financial advisors. I would never call myself a financial advisor because that, the perception of that is something very professional. Like people don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
And I don't want to deceive anyone. I
Sure.
call myself a personal finance strategist.
Yeah.
And
Good though. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Seems
because I'm not a
relatable.
CFP and I'm not going to like try to say, "Oh, I'm a financial advisor," because I don't know. I mean, would you agree with that? Don't you
Yeah.
think when you say
Totally.
there's some kind of certification, there's a
Yep.
license that and that's
Yep.
not true. Like
Yeah.
they don't have that.
Yep. I agree.
So, yeah, yeah. So he says that to me and but before that too, I was reading like The Wealthy Barber
Yeah.
and I was pretty savvy, I'd say for the average like 23, 24, 25-year-old then.
Yeah.
Today it's different. You have YouTube, it's very different today.
Right. Right.
And so, he left and I thought, okay, well, screw him.
Hmm. I'm gonna get the info I need, right?
I'm gonna, continue doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back then it was so much more challenging. Um, and the not just the general information that we have online, but even to get like access to a quarterly report, an annual
Yeah.
report, there
Yeah.
were hoops you had to
Hard.
jump through.
Yeah.
It was so much more
Absolutely.
difficult. Um, so that's kind of how, my
Yeah.
my entrance into the financial management world started.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Great.
and I thought I was great because I'm sure that statistically your stock's going to do well if the overall market is doing well. And
Yeah.
right. So,
Yeah. Yep.
you have people saying, oh, my stock did great. Well, most stocks do well when the market is
It's doing well.
on the up. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So I thought I was
Right.
really good at it. And
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. So
Got
I don't
it.
even remember what the question was. I'm going to be
Well,
quiet now.
no, no, no. It's great. It's good. I love that. You're kind of going on all the places I was going to go. So this is great. But I want to kind of get us to, really talking about women and wealth and money and finance and things like that. Because what I hear on my side of things a lot is, I just don't know where to start, or, nobody talked to me in my life about wealth, or there's money shaming, or entrepreneurs I find oftentimes are either really, really money hungry, but then when they get it, they don't know what to do with it, and or they're scared of it, and all of these different things. And I know you say wealth isn't a vibe, it's a system. I think I heard you say that or something along those lines. Can you kind of unpack that for me a little bit and tell me what that kind of looks like, especially for those women who have been taught to avoid money or fear money, or it's a bad thing. Shaming, money shame is a real thing that people deal with. Money, women in particular with their money. Can you talk to me a little bit about that, or kind of
Sure,
unpack
sure.
what that looks like for me?
So, as far as the system goes, so at Million L, and that's spelled million and then L-E-L-L-E. That wasn't very well thought out, but I thought it was cool. Million
It is
L.
cool, right? Yeah. We'll drop it
So,
below so that you've got we'll
yes.
link to it so people can come find
Yeah.
you, because
S-
it's a great podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have a service too that we offer, but so step one, I think that step one with anything you want to get better at in life and the system starts with awareness.
Yeah.
I always say it starts with awareness. That's why even with the podcast, so the podcast is really foundational for what you need to know if you're part of our membership.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenging part with awareness relative to money is there are, you have a million expenses. You have one income source, but you could also have, dividend stocks
Yep.
which I'm hoping that a 30-year-old, that isn't your income stream,
Right.
but whatever, there
Yeah.
are a lot of different things you have to keep track of. And that's why we offer an app too. So, um, I'm not trying to promote my business. What I'm trying to get at is no, no, no. I know it kind of sounds like that,
No.
but it starts with awareness.
Yeah.
And when it comes to money, there are just way too many things to keep track of. And I think whether it's men or women, you just don't take the time to sit down. I always say these two phrases, where am I at? Where am I going?
Yeah.
And when you think about when you were 30, when I was 30, you know, we're so busy. We
Mm-hmm.
don't, unless we schedule it somehow, it's not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
So the system starts with penciling it in. But there are tools certainly that make it much easier, which is why we have the app. But it starts all with, okay, how much money do I make? Do I have any debt? Where am I at? Where am I going? And everyone's picture is different, right?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you a couple more questions around this money and kind of unpacking this a little bit more. When you think about, so you talked about awareness and things like that, and we know that, right now in particular in this economy, there's a lot of challenges, right? That people are having, a lot of debt, a lot of things. And if a woman was listening today and she had $100 in her account and a mountain of debt, what would be the very first thing you'd tell her to do?
Well, the first thing is always knowing what's coming in and what's going out.
Yeah.
So, I would sit down with her and I would look at the numbers and we would figure out, what is your income?
Yeah.
What are your expenses? And then so maybe I didn't give a complete answer to your first question. So that first piece is the awareness.
Yeah.
But then the second piece is choosing one goal. You have to have one goal. So if the goal is to pay off the debt, which
Yeah.
it should be, right?
Yeah.
Debt is just, we're all wired to not like debt
Yeah.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So, you know, we pick a goal and then we figure out how we're going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would tell her not to focus on the $100, but focus on, what's going to help her get to, let's assume the goal is, paying down her debt.
Yeah.
What's going to help you get there? Is it, you know, are there some assets we can sell? Can you take on another job? Can you work overtime? Just kind of figuring out how she's going to get there. And that
Yeah.
and so there's the awareness piece, there's the goal, and then there's the plan. And once you have a plan, right? We know, especially at our age, I mean, that even if she still has the mountain of debt, she's going to feel so much better
Just with the plan. Yeah.
just with the plan.
Right. Right.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. So
And I know I hear this too a lot when a lot of people just say, I'm not very good with money. I just,
I hate that. It drives me nuts.
what do you tell them? How do you rewrite that story and help them
Well, you
take
tell
their
them,
first sort of, be empowered with your money kind of
well,
thing?
it's laziness. I'm so
Mm,
sorry. It's like, get your shit together. Oh, sorry. Get
you
your
can say
stuff
shit.
together. I mean, this takes an hour a month.
Yeah.
If you have the
Right.
right tools, I'm not talking spreadsheets. I was on a podcast with an amazing woman who was a love coach, and we were talking about just this boom in, podcasts and influencers. And I think that you have to find the right fit.
Sure. Yeah.
And there are classes out there that are thousands of dollars, by the way. More power to them, but
Right.
and they preach to like a spreadsheet.
Right.
Okay, that's not going to happen. We don't have
Right.
time for spreadsheets.
No.
And in
Right.
2025,
Yeah.
you need something we're used to boom, boom.
And you got to have something on your phone. You got to have
Yeah.
something easy. You got
Yeah.
to have something you can just
You have
look
to
and
have
go.
something easy. Right.
Yeah. And
So
fast.
those tools exist. So what
Yeah.
I would say to that person is get your shit together,
Yep.
find the right tool, and
Yep.
you have no excuses. Like
Right.
you know, that's what I would say.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I think I think there's so much like fear around this, like I said, right? Or so much, maybe it's financial illiteracy versus financial literacy, where I just feel like people don't take the time. There's kind of this you can make money on the internet or you can do all of these things, but then, the whole world isn't on the, making money on the internet. Like the average person is working a job
Right.
and making money and having
Exactly.
debt and doing the things that normal people, let's call it,
Right.
do, right?
Right.
Not
Right. Right.
everybody is making millions on TikTok, right? And we're not
No.
all, doing the internet world and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's so many things where people just have this kind of like skewed idea of what financial literacy looks like, and they look at these people making all this money and they think, oh, I'm not doing so well because I'm just making my 9 to 5 work. But that's really what most people are doing. And I think nowadays you can get these tools off the internet and do all the stuff that you want, but really the reality is most people are just working a job, right? And so you've got to
Well,
work within that too.
I love what you said too, because it really boils down to living below your means. Like
Right.
when I think about so my parents were immigrants, and they were both white collar.
Hmm.
I honestly thought we were super rich growing up. I wasn't. We
Yeah.
weren't.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you
Felt that
why.
way.
I
Yeah.
I mean, the reason why I thought that is because my parents lived way below their means. They
Hmm.
saved a ton of money. My dad was not a great investor, but what he had going for him was the savings. And so when we wanted something, we got it.
Yeah.
it was not a problem.
Right.
My mom worked a full-time job. She was in management at an insurance company, and she still cooked. My mom
Yes.
cooked 7 days a week. Like, we would come
Yeah.
home, she would pick me up. We would go home, she would make dinner. Like, this is part of the problem. They see this stuff on, I'm trying really hard not to swear. I swear a lot.
Oh, you can swear. But everybody knows that I do. I've got a mouth like a sailor, so
No,
it's all good. You're fine.
the contractors that I work with, they're amazing guys. I swear more than they do. So I'm working on that. But that's the problem today. Like, we look, and 99% of what you see on social media is completely fake.
Totally.
And it's like, do you forget that when
Yeah.
you're watching that? Like, what's wrong with you? Like you said,
Mhm.
most people work regular 9 to 5 jobs,
Mhm.
and they see this bullshit. You
Yep.
have to live below your means. Don't buy coffee at Star. I mean, coffee is not going to make or break you. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah. Right. No,
Seriously, it won't make or break you. But you know, like, that's
it's
part of
the
the
little things, right? Like it's the little things that add up over time, I think.
well,
What you're
it's
saying too.
they see, it, it, you have to live your life the way it's going to make you comfortable. And
Right.
if that means you have to buy a $3,000 handbag, like, it's
Right.
like this entitlement. It's this,
Mhm.
when I was growing up, not everyone had a nice car. Not everyone had,
Right.
like, these handbags that it's
Right.
just so stupid. It's
Yep.
dumb.
It is.
And that's what's missing. Have some confidence.
Yep.
Who cares what other people think?
Yep.
Buy the car that's 5 grand versus having I don't know, hundreds of dollars of, new lease payment per month.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So I
I
can't
think
even remember what the question was. Did I answer
well,
the
it was
question?
yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I think the reality here too for a lot of people is that, they just don't, like you said, have the education. They don't take the time to educate, and they're more stressed because they've put themselves in this financial situation than, you know,
I
than living.
remember the question now. I remember the question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think we went off on the tangent of, you know, uh, living relative to, like, the social
Yeah.
media thing came up.
Yeah.
But I think your question was, why is financial literacy so challenging?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I don't want to blame it on the industry, but they make it seem like rocket science, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when numbers are involved, I think maybe we naturally assume, oh, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And it's intimidating. Like, I remember recently, I was at the hair salon, and my lovely stylist, who I've been with for over 20 years, she had a new assistant, and she was 18 years old, just out of beauty school. And I said, listen, we got to talk. You have
Yeah.
to take, she's living with her parents. I'm like talking to her about, ETFs, and
Yeah.
and and what I said to her was, I said, it's easy.
Yeah.
And she said, oh no, no, it's not easy. Like,
Mhm.
and I said,
Yeah.
yes, it is. I said, we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
I
We'll
will
make it
educate
easy.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's this perception out there. And maybe because it's male dominated, I don't know. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I didn't have that kind of beginning in life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
I do think that a lot of people think numbers and they think scary, right? Or they think that it needs to be complex. Or a lot of people go back to the spreadsheets. Like nobody wants to do a spreadsheet, right? Nobody wants to
nobody,
go
it's
through all of that.
painful.
It
Yeah.
hurts. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people don't even know how to do a spreadsheet, let alone put numbers in it and understand the meaning of it. So
Right. Right.
I totally get that. And I think, I've got young adult children myself. And, some of the things that we've talked about are investing early. And they both just have their first, big girl, big boy jobs. And
Oh, that's exciting.
it is exciting. And 401ks. And what do you do with a 401k? And, nobody other than your parents sit down and have that conversation with you.
If your parents even,
If your parents even do,
I
right?
mean, that was another thing. Like, they never explicitly talked to me about this
Right.
ever, ever.
Right. And I sat down and talked with my daughter and said, okay, you've got this 401k. Do you understand what this means? And we kind of talked about it, so on and so forth. but had I not had that conversation, I don't think because she wasn't going to do it. She was like, why would I do that? This doesn't even make any sense.
Oh,
And I thought,
oh
I have parenting, I've missed the parenting boat on this one, but nobody sits down in HR and talks to you about that as a young new person coming into a corporate experience. Nobody sits
But they
down and
should,
talks about
right? Shouldn't they?
it.
Shouldn't HR
Shouldn't
talk to
they?
you about that?
That's what I think. I think it's missing.
I
And I
can't
think it's a
remember.
part. Nobody
Yeah.
talked to me about, oh, you can, we'll match you. It's in your little booklet or whatever, but that's about the
Mm.
extent of it. And I just think it's such a miss for our younger people at this point that just don't have the understanding of that. But I'm going to ask you kind of as we wrap up here, this one final question that I
Yes.
kind of like to ask a lot of people, but
Okay.
this one for you is a little bit different. So tell me what's one money lie that women, let's just stick with women, need to unlearn immediately? And what's the truth that they should replace it with?
I think that it's complicated or that they think they can't do it. I mean,
Mhm.
specifically women.
Mhm.
And the truth is that you have to take the time to figure out what it is you want. Like, do you want to figure out money because you are in debt? Do you want to figure out money because you don't understand what a 401k is? Do you
Mhm.
want to figure out money to be, to have a $10 million net worth by the time you retire? Like, what's the point first?
Yeah.
Um, and there's just, like I said, there's really no excuse.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
excuse.
Good. Okay. Well, listen, let's give people your socials and your website and all of your things so that they can come find you if they want to learn more about what you offer specifically, because
Sure.
I've heard you say you're making it easy for us. So let's give people the tools to make it easy. So where can people find you on the internet? What's your website? All that kind of stuff.
So our website is the word million, so million, and the word L, E L L E. So it's
Got it.
millionl.com. And the podcast, which I have to say is amazing.
I did listen. I told her
you know,
I listened to
the
it
one I
before.
want you to really listen to,
Yeah.
I'm really obsessed with crypto these days because if people understood what it is,
Yeah.
the whole purpose, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I want you to listen to two of them. I want you to listen to the 5 minutes to understanding crypto. That
Yep.
was a few weeks ago. And then I think this past week was stablecoin. Like,
Mm, those are
because
two great
it's
ones.
coming
Yeah.
for us and we have to understand what it is.
Yep.
And I had a LinkedIn post. I said, if you have US dollar denominated assets, you better figure out, because that's the whole purpose. It's
Right.
this decentralized finance. It means taking power away from, the leverage away from our government, which anyway, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but so
But
million,
listen to it. Yes.
please listen to it.
Yep.
It's and the 5 minute episode, you're not going to believe this, or you might believe this because you podcast as well. That 5 minute episode took me hours to
Forever. I'm
produce
sure.
because, well, I wanted to make it easy and
Yeah.
understandable. And so you can go to millionl.com, go to millionl wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yep. Yep.
And this my Instagram social is millionl underscore. But the social stuff, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm curious what your opinion is. I think followers are so like, think about it. Think about all the people that we follow and
Uh-huh.
how many times we see their stuff.
Yep. Right.
Like, it's kind of meaningless. They never
Yep.
even show up in your feed.
Right. Right. No, I really that one of the reasons I started the podcast was because I wanted to do more interviewing of women and get it out in a way that actually was meaningful for people versus just posting something on social where may or may not end up in your feed. And I'm a marketer by heart, right? Like this is what I do. And so I'm saying this with pure love, but the days of posting and having millions of people follow you and that's how you make all your money, it's not happening that way anymore. And you'll see podcasts pop up all over the place, some better than the others and so on and so forth. But I do think it is a great outlet to having meaningful conversation with people about topics that you may or may not understand, like crypto or, whatever you're talking about. And I think it's an easy, fast way to learn and to understand. So that's why I love the podcast angle versus, doing a lot of social posting anymore, because I just think that we're getting lost and people are bored and they don't have
That's
time.
exactly, you know what? That's exactly why I did the podcast
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on my second social media. My social media presence is very weak, but that's because, I'm focused on my business and I
Yeah.
thought that the podcast, it really gives people a sense of who we are
Totally. Right.
versus the, you know,
A post that says, "Hey, save your money."
I know.
Right?
Well, even that, I really there's this one influencer that I love. Her name is, I don't like her politics, but I like her. Her name is Vivian TU. She has like millions of followers. But
Uh-huh.
like if you look at her content,
Hmm.
it's a value add. Like even
Yeah.
I occasionally learn stuff.
Yep. Yep.
And and timing obviously is a thing
Everything.
with the
Yep.
social media stuff, but
Yep. Yep. I love it.
yeah.
Thank you for being on here. I might have you back for a whole crypto conversation at another
Okay,
time because
okay.
it's
Macro,
interesting.
econ, crypto, those are my
It's
favorite
all the
subjects.
things, right? I love it. I love it. I remembered you asked me which podcast I listened to, and it was the one about starting your business blueprint. And I actually really would recommend that one as well for people
Oh,
who are just getting into or kind of not really feeling ready to start businesses, or kind of on the I want to get out of corporate and do something different kind of thing. That's a really good one too. So we
yeah.
will link
Well,
all
thank
of
you.
this below.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for being here and having great conversation. And as
Thank you for the
always,
invitation. I really
yes,
appreciate it.
yes, as always, we will have you back and talk again about crypto. I think would be a great thing to do. So let's
Okay.
plan that.
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good. Sounds
All
good.
right. Thanks,
You're,
everybody.
thank you.